Hey all, welcome to another session with me, Varun at Odin School. And in this session, we would be learning something new, guys. We would be taking a look at what is this new application or what is this new IDE, and it's called as Spider. And Spider is one of the top priorities. I wouldn't say that it is the topmost, but yes, Spider IDE is definitely one of the most preferred or the second most preferred IDE after Jupyter Notebook. We all know what is an IDE. IDE is integrated development environment, right? So when we talk about Spider IDE, this is a new variant of IDE. I wouldn't say new with respect to time. I'm just saying new because this is something different that we are seeing or that we would be looking at with respect to or as compared to what we have seen till now, right? So, without wasting time, let us go ahead. Let us dive deep into today's session and let us understand what this application is all about and how do we work on this IDE. And guys, as I said, Spider is the second most, you know, in demand kind of an application when it comes to learning of Python or when it comes to the usage of Python for data science. So it wouldn't be wrong for any of us to learn Spider and to start working on them at least from now if you haven't had any exposure to them or if you haven't had any exposure to this beautiful IDE, right? So guys, and we all also know why do we have to learn data science with Python, because data science is like the most in demand job right now of the 20th century, and almost every alternate person that we come across would want to become a data scientist, but forgetting or notwithstanding the fact who wants to become a data scientist, this generation needs a lot of data scientists because there is so much of data everywhere. Every application that you used is bound by or is backed by data, and this data needs to be managed. This data needs to be shown beautifully. This data cannot be just left open. So keeping things like these in mind, I would say that the job requirement of a data scientist or a data analyst or anything to do with data would only keep increasing exponentially over time. And this is not something that we would see decreasing, at least not immediately. Right, guys? So I hope now that answers the question as to why do we have to learn data science, or what does learning data science mean for people who are in IT at this point of time. So let me now take you forward into the introduction part without missing another second. We at Odin School, guys, we are a technology upskilling platform, and we would help you continuously acquire new skills. Thereby, you could stay skilled and stay ahead. And my name is Varun. I have an experience of 7 years, and over these 7 years, I've been assuming a mixed role wherein I've been working as a developer full time, and I have also been associated with trainings. I've delivered different kinds of trainings, guys, like corporate training, online training, and other variants too. And in this session, we would be understanding the agenda as discussed. And over the years, I've been able to work on different concepts and languages like HTML, front end languages, machine learning languages like R and Python, and CSS or Scala, and all this is completely in association, or is completely credits to the different organizations I've been able to work with. Now, the agenda would be to understand the use of Spider IDE, installing and verifying the interface, and we would be doing a small hands-on. Now, as far as understanding Spider IDE is concerned, or as far as installing and checking out the interface is concerned, guys, I believe that we've already covered this in the basics of introduction to Python session. So right now, the agenda would be to delve more over on understanding the IDE, installing the IDE, and like if these are 20% of the session, just a walkthrough, we would be focusing more on the hands-on part. We would be focusing more on understanding how do we import a data set in Spider and what are the different features Spider has. So this session would be more about understanding areas like those. Cool. So now let us go forward into the agenda. Right. So as you can see here, Spider, it is an open source. Okay, so I'll just mark some important points so that we don't miss them. Right, so as you see, it is an open source cross-platform integrated development environment, IDE, right? And it is open source, just like Anaconda Navigator. And this is used for scientific computing or programming in Python language. Guys, please pay attention to this. Now, Spider is pre-installed in Anaconda Navigator also, but as I said, there are a lot of times when you might want to work on application otherwise too. In that case, you would need, so every application has two variants. It has an offline variant and an online variant. So it has two variants, and both of these variants are important considering the fact that you might have access to internet or you might want to work at any given point of time independent of a location. Now, there are some locations where you have really good network and some locations where you don't. So whatever is the location that you're working at, it is a mandate for us to ensure that things like these are taken care of. Okay, so now we have offline variants and online variants. Offline variants are generally considered to be a bit outdated, a bit, because they get updated once in every quarter or once in every month. The way you set your settings for the updates to happen. But when we talk about the online variant, every time you shut down your system and it switches on, there is uh, something which ensures that your libraries are up to date the moment you switch it back on, right? But this is not something that we see in offline variants, guys. Okay, in offline variant, your system would prompt for an update and you would have to install it. And if there is any dependent libraries required, you might have to install them also. So this is how we would work on Spider. When we talk about Spider, this IDE, that is Spider, it features multi-language text editor with many helpful and intelligent features. However, this version of Spider is static, meaning most users must download separate packages. Guys, I hope now this is understood. Separate packages to experiment with different Python versions. Now, if for a second, let us assume that this variant of Spider which you're working is static, which means that you must download separate packages every damn time. And this is not something that's very easily possible for us to do. So that is the reason why a lot of people prefer working on online variants to avoid confusion or to avoid collision of codes or collision of updates. Right, so there are some amazing features of Spider, and these amazing features are there are some syntax highlights that you can do. Now, what do we mean by a syntax highlight? It means that every time you are working on a syntax, even if it is right or even if it is wrong, there would be a variant of highlight that it would do or that it would come up with. And this highlight marks the text. I mean, you would know if it is correct or if it is wrong. The first point. The second point is there is availability of breakpoints, and you can use conditional breakpoints or you can use simple debugger breakpoints to check how your system is behaving. Then the third one you have is interactive execution. So here you could either run a line, you could run a file, or you could run a cell. So you have different options. It's not locked wherein there's only one line and you have to ensure that the code is inserted there only. Well, this is how Jupyter IDE works. it's a bit less interactive in terms of execution as compared to Spider ID, is what I would say at least. Then the next one is you could run configurations for working directory selections, command line options, or current or dedicated external consoles, etc. You could do it for any of these. And then when you talk about Spider, it automatically clears variables. Like when there is any step happening, you don't have to take the grunt of going ahead and deleting them. They do it themselves. The next one is navigation through cells, functions, blocks, etc. can be done through the Outline Explorer. Well, this is a debatable concept, but I wouldn't mind budging on that. Here, you can actually navigate through your cells, functions, blocks through the Outline Explorer. You can change them, you can add them, you can remove them. I mean, you can just change the screen the way you want. All of these are very highly possible using Spider. The next one, it has real-time code introspection, which means that whenever you are checking out a code and if there is any problem or if there's anything wrong, you would see that it marks an error immediately. For example, the spelling of import is IMPORT. Now, if I put it as IMPURT, then it would mark that sentence as an error. Now this becomes easy for the developer to understand where things are going wrong right at the beginning instead of waiting till the end. So advantages like these make a lot of difference. Then you have automatic colon insertion after a while, or after if or a while. That is, now after a while I don't mean after some time, I mean after a while statement or after an if statement, we notice that you have automatic colon insertion which happens. Then the next one is it supports all the IPython magic commands. So we know that that is not something that you need to lay stress on. Everything that is supported by Anaconda Navigator, guys, or Jupyter Notebook is equally supported and endorsed and hosted by Spider too. And this is not an option because both of them support one language, both of them support one concept. You cannot have things which are inconsistent here and there. You cannot have 30% of them running here while 70% of them being managed there. This is something that we do not see in any IDs. Now, if there's one IDE which is capable, the other IDE is also almost equally capable. It's just that we might prefer using one over another because of ease or because of the organization's rule or because of something like that. So guys, this is how we work on this is the role of Spider. Now, it also has features like help, file, explorer, find files and all. So we'll take a look at it right away. And guys, let us now move on into Jupyter Notebook, sorry, into Spider Notebook. Well, this is how my Spider Notebook looks like. As you can see, my Spider is divided into three parts of a screen. And let me just do this 3 plus 2 or 2 plus 2 is also okay. I would highlight this 2 plus 2 area, and here there are different ways. You could run a file or you could run a line or a current cell, and this is if you want to run a current cell and go to the next one. This is when you want to run a selection. So I'm using a selection now and we see 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. Now guys, what are the different commands that we have here? Let us just take a look at them also. So I have execute a line, execute a selection, a small piece of code or execute a cell as it is called as, and the next one is execute the whole page or the whole code. You can execute a line or a cell or a whole code, and here I am doing all the three, but in this step in specific, that is when I was executing 2 plus 2 and my answer came out to be 4. Here I was executing just a line. Now we would look at other variants of execution too, so that you understand things. All right, so that was step one for us. That was the first part that we would want to talk about. Now to the second part, if I would want to create a new uh, file, so it would be new file, and you see here, yeah, here we have it created. So here I might want to save this, save a small. Okay, now I do control enter. I do enter and my answer is -1. Now that this is executed, I might want to save this. And when I save this, it would ask me what is the location that I'm looking for. I would want to save this in the desktop, and it is asking me for different options. Like in which file do I save this? You could save this in Python files or Pyrex files, batch files or supported text files. I mean, I don't know, whatever way you want. And I'm saving this as untitled 0. And when I save this as untitled 0, you would notice that this would become untitled.py. So here I would now just try to cross check for the same on my desktop. Let us just see where it is. Yes, here it is. So untitled 0.py, we have this. And when I go ahead and check the properties, this is a Python file. And you could just pick up or select an app to open this, it can get opened with Spider. Now when we are saving something in Jupyter Notebook, guys, that would be a .ipynb. Now that's the difference when we are trying to work on each of them, right? So yeah, here I am considering 2 plus 3 minus 6 and it got saved there. Now, the next step that I would want to do is, now that we have understood how to open a file, how to create a file, how to save a file, the next thing that I would want to talk about is how to work on different parts of it, or how to work on, yeah, we'll just see that instead of talking. So here what I have for us is first step, uh, let me delete or let me clear the whole screen for us so that there's no confusion. Cool. So here, as you can see, I'm using my import numpy and matplotlib as PLT. I'm sure we all know what these two pieces of code are. So now I would want to execute them, and yeah, I don't see that there is any error or there is any inconsistency. Now, what I'm doing is I am defining a data set. And how am I doing that? I am considering data is equal to 20 apples, 15 mangoes, 30 lemon and 10 oranges. This is the set that I am considering. Now, I would again execute this, and this part of the screen, guys, so to give you an idea, your spider is divided into three parts, wherein this is your first, this is your second, this is your third. So first and third are just to see, this is, if this is to enter your code, I would say this is to validate your code. The difference between them is as hairline or is as minute. Okay, now what is the second quadrant for? The second quadrant can again be split into different boxes or into different understanding, wherein the first one is variable explorer, the second one is help, the third one is plots, the fourth one is files. When we look at variable explorer, here there are four variables. And what does variable explorer do? Variable explorer is kind of, it reads your data set, or it shows your values rather. And what values, guys? The values which are stored in your variables. For example, here we see that my data is a variable here. Yeah, my data is a variable here, and it has four values within it. And these four values are passed into data, and then it's giving me the size, that there are four values. It's also giving me what type is it. It's a dictionary. If it would have been a list, it would have, my system or my Spider IDE would tell me that this is a, yeah, my Spider IDE would tell me that this is a dictionary or a list or a tuple or a data frame. So this is something that your dictionary is capable to do, or your Spider is capable to take care of, right? And as we know, as we all know, dictionary works on the concept of key value, right? So here what are the keys? I have my apple, mango, lemon, orange, all of them to be keys, and 20, 15, 30, 10 to be my values. So now this key value pair would get populated here, right? And yeah, so I'm not executed my next set of steps. Let us just do that. So I am now executing my line number 8. Then line number 9. And now let us just open each of these. So what would these do is something that we would understand now. So I'm deleting every information that's on my screen, clicking this. So here you see it's a dictionary which has 4 elements, and each of these elements, guys, can be changed. It can be played upon. Alright. So when I do key, see it will try to arrange things for me. Oranges, now we have mangoes, now we have oranges. So it's arranging in small and caps for me. Then we have, this is getting arranged with respect to size, 10, 15, 20, 30, they're all ascending now. So these are the kind of arrangements. Even when you just tap on this, and this is reverse, 30, 20, 15, 10, they would not come out at random like 20, 15, and then 30, and then 10. This is not how Spider works for you. Then the next one I have is names. Let's just check that as well. And what are the four names? We have apples, mangoes, lemon, oranges. Then each of these variants, all of these are strings. So that is the reason why you have them in string format. String is used wherever we have textual information, guys. So that is the usage of string. And this is my index for 0, 1, 2, and 3. After which I have my values. And what are the different values we have? We have 20, 15, 30, and whatever. So these are all integer variant. You can see they are all integer variant. And here also when I go for this, you will see 3, 2, 1, 0 or 0, 1, 2, 3. There is no third variant. They are either in ascending or descending. And whatever order we write here should make sense, guys. Okay. So keeping that in mind, I have, or we have executed this step here, and then I would want to see my figure. Now this here becomes an important step, and when I do this, you would be having your figure. Yeah, here goes your figure. It's figure object of matplotlib module. Now my next line, and let us just go to plots menu, and here we have, that's exactly what the reader or what the system is trying to tell us, guys. This is not an error. please do not freak out, or please do not lose your calm. Here it is said that the figure size is 720 into 360 here, and it contains objects of four artists. Now, four artists or four columns means the same. Then figures now render in plots pane by default. See, this is the plots pane. To make them also appear inline in the console, uncheck mute inline plotting. Okay, so we got to uncheck this. Is already unchecked under the plots pane option. So here you have plots. You might be having options here. See, you can do this mute inline plotting. And when you do this, let us just execute the same answer now. You have an answer here too. But guys, you would want I mean, I guess you should prefer to watch things here, because this is a dedicated area for plots. That way, you'll ensure that your system is neat and clean all the time. There's no accumulation of unnecessary information that's happening from time to time. So that is the second most important takeaway here. So now what we'll do is let us just clean all the information, and we'll see how to clean information. So this has cleaned all my marks. This here, as you're able to see, this is an eraser. So I'll be clicking on this, and now it will remove all the variables that we have accumulated. And if you do not even want to see this, you can click on this and create a new kernel, right? So plots is done. Now I'll go to variable explorer, and even this is cleared here. So all what we worked on is gone. Now I can delete this, and we are done with it. So I mean, this is a basic variant of how we work on Spider, guys. Now, if this is the first thing that I wanted to talk about, there are also some other important things that I would want to show. We are not done yet. We are also trying to understand some data pre-processing techniques in today's session. And here, like when we are talking about matplotlib, or when we're talking about a library named NumPy, or when we're talking about creating a bar graph, all these are very basic. Now, I am trying to explain something which is much more important, and this topic is called as data pre-processing. Now, guys, what do we mean by data pre-processing? Whenever we get a data set, it could be of any variant. Your data set would have a lot of inconsistencies. There is no perfect data set which exists when given to you. Or if you get something like that, you can actually consider yourself outrightly lucky. Or, well, I would call you an outlier in your organization if you have your data that is so sorted and everything up to the mark, right? Now, here, when we talk about working on any of these processes, that is data pre-processing techniques, it's important for us to understand that the data we get is mostly in unstructured format. And we as developers, we are supposed to convert this or change this, or rather transform this into understandable variant, or into from unstructured to structured variant, or to structured format. And this is our this is a part and parcel of developers job role. So now here, keeping that in mind, let us look at some very important data pre-processing techniques. All right, and in order to do that, first things first, I would want us to go through a data set. Right, so guys, this is my data set. And how do we read a data set in Python or in Spider? Let us just take a look at that. So here I'm using my data.csv, and this is read CSV. I'm sure we all know things till here, right? Now this is a data pre-processing template, and this template can directly be copied into your own code also. And here we are trying to work on 3 or 4 things. The first one being how to import a data set. The second one being on how to take care of missing values. The third one being how to take care of categorical information. The fourth one being how to split your data set into training and testing set and take it forward for feature scaling. So there are 5 different processes that we are checking in this one video or in this one shot. Right, guys? So without wasting time, let us begin. So firstly, how do we read a data set here? So here, as you can see, the data set that I am reading is named as data.csv. Now that let me just open this up. So here, as you can see, we have different. Okay, oops, that was a bit fast. Right. Here, as you can see, we have a lot of information, and the data set that I would want to copy is data. Right. Now that I have this here, the step remains the same. I would right click on the file, I would go into properties, and I would copy this path. The whole path, I would copy it, whatever is the end to end. And here I would come into my variable explorer or files and paste it here. The moment I paste it, everything that is within that specific folder is now imported here as well. We have the same set of data there and here. And now that I have my information, I would go back into my variable explorer, and now let us start working on the code that we have for us. So here I would be executing the first 3 lines of code, that is import numpy as np, import matplotlib uh, dot pyplot as plt, and import pandas as pd. So these are the 3 steps that I would be executing first. And then, now that we have the data set and the data is readable, the second step I would be doing is to kind of access my rows and columns. So this is execute for one line. So I'm executing my current line. Oops, guys, we didn't execute these lines here. That's the reason why I'm having an error there. So yeah, executing, and now I don't think that this line should create any problem for us. Yes, I have my data set. And now when I click on this left corner on the name, I can just hover and click on this. And when I do that, you see here I have the names of countries, I have my age, I have my salary and purchased. So you could also zoom this and check. This is the index, country, age, salary and purchased. Below you also have editing features. I can remove background color and you see that now it's all unicolor. Or it is as simple as how we see data in Jupyter Notebook. Then we also have something called as column min max on off. So when I remove this, they would all be marked in the same color. Now there is no color grading based on maximum minimum. But when I check this also, you would see that it is marking things for us, right? And this data has all kinds of information. This data has categorical, which is yes, no, or the names. This data also has numeric, wherein you have the age and the salary, which are numeric. This data also has NA values, as you can see. These grayed out values are NA values, and we might have to populate them with the right value. So this is what we would be doing now. Data pre-processing involves all these steps. Now, this is thanks to the data set that we have only a couple of errors which we would want to talk about and understand. But when you go into a real time scenario, this would not remain just like that. Things here would change a lot, right, guys? Okay. Right. So now that we have understood what is the data set that we are working with, let us now give the x values and y values. So my x value and y. So what is my x? X is an array of objects which has everything else. Okay, let us just cross check instead of coming to a conclusion. So this is my new data set. Let us open the older one, and this is my older one or actual one. Right. So we can ignore the index part. There are still four more. And guys, could you please note and tell me which of these is not available here? As you can see, it is the last column. Purchased column is eliminated. And why is that? Because I might want to work on a classification problem wherein I would want to see if it is purchased or not. And I would want to understand the predictions based on the output. So now that it is done, and now that we have understood how to read the x and y variables or values and how does it depend, let us go to the first and the top most of our concerns. That would be to, now that we've imported the data set, now the second step would be to take care of the missing values. And in order to take care of missing values, you have a very dedicated library, guys, which is called as sklearn. sklearn happens to be a very, very important library that we use for our daily purposes. Or sklearn is one of the most important machine learning libraries. sklearn is the library within which you have your machine learning like linear regression, logistic regression, all the accuracy tests, the tests for uh, confusion matrix, RMSE, all these happen through sklearn. So now sklearn is a very, very important library. SK is scikit. Scikit is mostly used for scientific computing. So all the while we've been working on computing, scientific computing only, but scikit is specially designed for that. And not to forget, it plays a very, very important role in machine learning or in deep learning process. Scikit. Yes, guys. SCIKIT. That is the spelling of scikit. Now, here, what I am doing is within scikit or within sklearn, you have sklearn.preprocessing, right? And sklearn.preprocessing can take care of, as you can see here, right? So here we have a definition. The sklearn preprocessing module includes scaling, centering, normalization, and binarization methods. Now, if you could, or if we would have navigated just through sklearn, guys, this is about sklearn. sklearn is huge. As you can see, it is a machine learning Python module. Okay, sklearn is a Python module for for integrating classical machine learning algorithms in the tightly fit world of scientific Python packages. So Going by the statement here, you have some packages like NumPy or SciPy or probably Matplotlib or Pandas. Now all these libraries are connected to scikit or SciPy, and that is the reason where scikit becomes very important. It aims to provide simple and efficient solutions to learning problems that are accessible to everybody, and it tries to resolve them. So guys, for all those of you who have a query if scikit is important or what are some important machine learning libraries, well, I would suggest all of you to start working with scikit or sklearn ASAP. And this is all ASAP because considering that you start understanding things from now, it would still take you some minimum time, no matter how whiz or how whiz you are, or no matter how slow learner you are, it still takes some basic time for all of us to at least learn. So till then, my suggestion is to be a bit patient, to understand what are the aspects in and around it or in and around scikit. Just go through different websites that you could to have a deeper understanding about scikit or scientific computing library, and then you can start working on it. Now, when we talk about data pre-processing, I hope you have understood that there are four processes in it. So you have scaling, you have centering, you have normalization, and you have binarization. Now let us just work on some of them just to gain insights or just to gain an understanding about what is data cleaning in the first place. To have an understanding about how do we treat or how do we handle missing values, or to understand what is the concept of uh, handling categorical values. So let us just go ahead and check these right now. Now guys, whenever you find or whenever you see that there are NA values available on your screen, you don't just let them be, or you cannot just randomly change them with whatever values you want. For example, if I have, so here let us just go back to variable explorer. Yeah, as you can see within my data set, I have NaN values here. We have 1, we have 2. Yeah, so we have two NaN values here. Guys, you can't replace them with some random number. Like I'll replace this with 35 and I'll replace this with 10 years. That's not possible. I mean, you can do that, but that would make your data useless, or that would make your data just more of information rather. And this is one thing that we don't want to do, because of which what we would do is we would use something called as pre-processing. Within pre-processing, you have a lot of methods. Again, here I'm using an imputer method to pre-process my data, and when I do impute, it has NaN values in your data set. So here the missing values is equal to NaN, strategy is equal to mean, and the axis is equal to 0. This is, I hope it's very straight and very simple to understand. What we are doing is in line number 15, sorry, in line number 16, I am considering, okay, let us just increase the size for better visibility. Well, guys, there is one console, or there is one specific tab which gives us features to increase the size, and I am just looking for that. There is some global features tab, and that I see has changed a lot. that you can check for updates. Like whenever you do this, check for updates. It will just let you know if there are any updates, guys. And this is about the version that we've downloaded. Here you would be having, what version is it? So this is Python 3.7 that we are working on, and this is Spider 4.1.4. Okay. Well, let me just increase the size here. That if there are ways that you can change your background to, you have something called as global options, and I'm unable to find that right now. Okay, so these are the different tools that you could use. Run toolbar, debug toolbar, main toolbar. You might want to keep or you might want to remove any of them. These are the different projects you have worked on. This is a console if you are looking for any new console. This is important, guys. Whenever you're working on Python real time and you have things to decode or debug, rather, you might want to come into this feature. This is this is different ways of execution. This is the source code, and the rest all are not very necessary. Okay, so here as you can see, the first two lines, my libraries are imported. Then in line number 9, 10, 11 or 10, 11, 12, I have my data set wherein I'm reading my first column and third column. Then in my or from my line number 15 to 18, from, okay, it says there is a new update that is Spider 4.1.5 is available. Okay, now as you can see, there is missing data here, and from missing data, I'm using sklearn preprocessing imputer. Now, guys, sklearn preprocessing, it includes normalization and different binarization methods. And when I go into this, there is something called as imputer. Okay, now what does imputer do? Let us just execute this line first. It says cannot. Okay, guys, so here this is how an error looks like. What we are doing is, let me first now run this chunk of code. Okay, all that is said and done. Now let me take care of the missing values by again selecting the code and executing this. It says it cannot open or it cannot import the name imputer. Right, guys? Now whenever it says or whenever you have an error like that, it means that you have a problem with that library, or you have a problem with that specific piece of code. Okay, so now let us just see if this is true for all of them or not. And if it is not, then what do we have here? Is this exchanged with something else? And if it is, then what is it exchanged with? So now I would go into sklearn.preprocessing. Okay, let me just clear this, execute. All right, so guys, I think we need to delete all this for once just to check where the inconsistency is. Cleared. Now let me just execute this part. Well, all this is executed properly. Now let us also execute this part. And it says sklearn preprocessing does not have this. So now what we need to do is, let us go to Google and we'll just check sklearn dot preprocessing import imputer. Let us see if there is any new method or if there is any change in the way how things are, or how things or between what we are doing right now. Right, guys, so as you can see, it is sklearn dot impute and import simple imputer. We don't have impute anymore. So now let me replace this simple imputer here also. So now I'll do a control V, and when I do this, or when I try executing this line of code now, let us see what happens. It says sklearn preprocessing import simple imputer cannot be imported. Okay, and this is because of a library update. Okay, so this is sklearn.impute, guys. It's not sklearn.preprocessing. So that is also changed. So we need to ensure that this is also changed here. So now that it is changed, let us now try running this code once again, only this line, to see if it is properly executed or not. Yes, and now we see that this line is executed and imported. So this is how we actually have to work on Python. There are updates, there are a lot of things which are removed, there are a lot of things which are added, and all these happen at random. Like they don't keep updating us each and every day with regards to each and every line. When you're working on pieces of code and when you see that there is an error, you might want to go back and check where you are going wrong. So now let us just go back to the piece of code. So here we are using import numpy, after which I'm using sklearn.simpleimputer, which is understood. And then the next line is also not a simple imputer, guys, or not just, it's not just what we've copied from here. We need to also change what is here. So I would want to copy this and delete these values and paste them here. So this also would change, this also would become simple imputer dot fit, and obviously this would become simple imputer dot transform. See, this is simple imputer, this is also simple imputer. So now let us just execute this line or these lines of code to see if we would have an output or if there would still be an error. So now I am executing these 4 lines. Okay, it says it got an error with axis equal to 0. So we don't need an axis equal to 0. Now I would again try executing this once again. And we see that there is still something that is going wrong, that is fit is missing. Okay, it says fit missing one required positional argument, that is x. And here we have how do we fit values or how do we remove values. Okay, let us just work on this example for now. We can just come back to this later. So here it says x fit is missing one required positional argument of x, and this is where we have it. We see that x is given here, and after fit, what are we doing in the next step, guys? We're using transform, and we are having transform here as well. So ideally, technically speaking, there is no error here, but it is still saying that this fit x needs to have a value. That's it. Or else we could probably, instead of, so here what we're doing, guys, I'm using an imputer wherein the missing value strategy is np.nan. But do we have an np.nan? No, we just have an nan. So our missing values would be nan, and then we have the next feature, which is strategy. The strategy being used is mean there and here as well. Then in the next step, the data set is being fed into it, as in I'm considering an fit wherein I'm taking 3 arrays, 1 to np.nan or nan comma 3, and so let us just write this down for better understanding. right? So it would be 1 comma 2, Na comma 3, and 7 comma 6. So these are the values, or rather these are the three arrays that are being considered here, right guys? Now this value is to be replaced, and how is this value being replaced? This value is being replaced using transform and fit, and even before that the strategy is mean. So we are trying to convert the NaN value using mean here and replacing it with the actual. And what is the actual? The actual is a 0. So now we could just plainly copy this from here. Oops, let us just exit, open up one random line. Right, so here we have it. I would want to paste this here, delete unnecessary stuff, and now let us just see if we would be having an output when we execute this. And yes, we do have an output, and as per the output we see that my value is replaced with 3.6. That is the mean, right guys? And here we have taken np.nan, which is the same missing values on the top two. Right guys, so what we are doing there and here do not actually have huge substantial difference, right? Let me just minimize this so that we are able to compare things side by side. Right. So we are importing NumPy. NumPy has been imported. Then in my next step, we are using sklearn.impute and import simple imputer. The same step is being done here. Then in my next step, I'm using imp equal to simple imputer, while here we are using imputer is equal to. Not much of a difference, not a difference to really worry about. Then we have a data set that we are considering here, and here also we are directly considering fit because we have our data which is taken into X, right guys? So this here does not need any, so and this is all rows and columns from 1 to 3. So now when I say 1 to 3, we would only have 1 0 1 2, we all know this, right? So this is what it means here. Then, or we could also do this to check if this would, okay. Now this also means all rows or all columns except one, or except my last, or the last but. Let me change this, and then finally I'm again taking all rows from my 1 to 3rd column, and then I'm using my transform. And when I use my transform, these NA values would now get converted into the mean, and I would be having my mean in my output. Now guys, just like how we were trying to work on missing values, we also have categorical values which need conversion. And when we are working on categorical values, we have something called as label encoder and one hot encoder. Both of these are libraries from sklearn, and these libraries help us in understanding or in changing your values from 0 1 into from yes no into 1 and 0. So here you can see I have France, I have Spain, I have Germany. We can convert them into 0 1 and 2. That's exactly what we are trying here. Here we have two variants of libraries, wherein one is label encoder and one is one hot encoder. Let us just go ahead into Google and check what they are used for. you can do label encoder in Python, and when you do this, you would be having the actual library that you are supposed to check from. And this is my actual library that I was talking about. I have label encoder and here it goes. And what does this do? Label encoder can be used to normalize labels. Now, what do we mean by normalizing labels? Or what do we mean by transforming non-numerical labels? So here you see you have Paris, Paris, Tokyo, Amsterdam. I don't know, you have some list of countries. Now I would want to change them into zero, ones and twos. And whenever we work on things like these, you would be noticing that you have zero, ones and twos that would get executed. Right guys, now when I say that would get executed, it would convert, now assuming there are three options. So we have three countries, India, China, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, like all the four adjacent countries. Now here India would be 0, China would be 1, Pakistan would be 2 and Sri Lanka would be 3. Now this conversion to happen wherein each country is being given a number, this process is called label encoding. Now we would require this, uh, so here again this is a two-step process wherein you have ordinal encoders and you have one hot encoder. Okay, both of them are different. Like label encoding is different from ordinal encoding is different from one hot encoding. They're all not the same, but more or less all of these they try to normalize the labels, or they try to give non-numeric value a numeric value. So things like these is what we do when we work on label encoder, right guys? So now let me also delete this. Okay, I hope we have understood what is label encoding and one hot encoding. And what else? What are the others that we have? Let us just take a look. So we have seen how to work on taking care of missing values. We have seen how to work on categorical data. That is, when you're working on categorical data, you have sklearn pre-processing, you have label encoder, you have one hot encoder. You give or you feed your system with the required column, and once you're done with it, you would see that your data is now changing from zeros, or your data is now changing from country names to zeros and ones. Let us just cross check once again just to see. Okay, let me just run this chunk of code from here to here. It's unable to detect categorical features. Okay, so let us just go back into one hot encoder. So guys, this is how you actually check errors each and every time. Right, so I'm into this one hot encoder. So we are, okay, so I guess it is changed to categories. Well, because we don't see any feature as to what we have written, right guys? So you have one hot encoder handle unknown, you have D type, you have get features. So what we have written here is categorical features, and I don't see any option like that. Rather, I see only categories. So let us just try changing this to categories. Well, this is not how it is supposed to be done, guys. The process is actually to be more elaborate, but just for the sake of, you know, let us again select this. We are just trying to understand how to detect errors and how to work on them efficiently. This is not the standard way of how we check values, guys. Anyways, we have been able to come up with an answer. So here you see it says the input contains NaN values. The error is now different. And why is it different? It is because now we see that the now that the property is changed, it really does not make a difference now. Just like this, I would also want you to take care of the missing data or how to handle missing values on the step above too. So here we can just delete the axis equal to 0. All right, and now when I again execute the same step, let us see what errors we have. It says imputer cannot be imported. So now I'll change this to simple imputer. Let us first execute only this line. I think this is capital S and capital I. From what? Yeah, it is capital S and capital I. Capital S and capital I. I'll copy this, pasting. Oops. Control C, Control V. We'll do a Control V and a Control V once again. Now let us see what could be the new variant of error that we would be having. Cannot import the name simple imputer. Well, this is not within sklearn pre-processing, guys. If you remember, we saw that this got changed into sklearn.impute. So that is the next change. So this is how we change, guys. This is how you work on each of them slowly, line by line, step by step. You take it with patience. All right. So now I would again implement this chunk of code, and now it says that there is some missing value, or there is some fit is missing one required positional argument of x, and here I have specified it, but this is how we work on them, right guys? This would still need some more time for me to execute and just check where it is going wrong, but not to worry, we would come up with another other example, and we've already seen how to work on missing values using the same case study here, and just to be sure, I would just want to mark things once again. Let's go to Google. It will be sklearn whenever you might want to work on things again. And when you do impute, the system would show things for you. And here you can just click on some random values. Okay, like you can just select or randomly open a couple of them and see what are the different types of impute values you have. So here these are the different impute values that we have. Okay, or that is the first variant, imputation of missing values. This is the second variant, right guys, wherein we are using transform x. Okay, and then there's no fit. Okay, we are fitting here, impute fit, and then we are transforming. Is that what we're doing here too? As you can see, yes, we are doing fit, and then after which we are doing transform. So what would transform do? Transform would impute all the missing values in x. And please note that when you're working on imputer or when you're working on data pre-processing template, imputer by default, it kind of replaces all the values with mean or median or mode or whatever it is that you select, then fits them, and in the third step when you do transform, it actually applies these values back into them, right guys? And we see that this code is getting implemented. There is some problem with the fit and the transform step, and we would get back to it in the sessions to come. Now the next process that we have remaining, or that we have to check upon, is feature scaling, and let us just understand what feature scaling is also. Now within Google, sorry, within sklearn, we have feature selection, and we also have sklearn feature selection. Right, now within sklearn feature selection, you have, again, as usual, interdependent properties or interdependent functionalities that we would have to check upon. Now, firstly, what does feature scaling do? Feature scaling, guys, it scales the values. Now, here, when I go to my data set, which is this, we see that we have values which are very, very diverse. I have age which is 44 and I have salary which is 72,000. Then I have the second age 27 and the salary to be 48,000. If you can see, the distances here are too huge. Now, when I say distances, I don't exactly mean distances, I mean the distribution or the range is too huge. I mean, there is no comparison between 44 and 72,000 or 27 and 48,000. The diverse, the way the information is diverse or spread here is too elaborate, correct? Now, when you want to reduce this gap, we use the process of standard scalar, which is called scaling or feature scaling. Now, whenever we do feature scaling, we would see that these values generally get minimized or generally come down from whatever values they are. So, in short or in simpler ways, the range is decreased. The range is brought from 0 to 1 to the best possible extent. Now that is what we try to achieve in feature scaling. So guys, we have just checked three methods. The first method being imputation, wherein we are trying to replace or wherein we are trying to remove or wherein we are trying to change the NaN values with the mean, median or mode. Then the second is replacement of categorical values or replacement of categorical values into numbers, wherein we have India, China, Pakistan, all of them being replaced into 0, 1, 2. Then the third one we have seen is feature scaling. Feature scaling is a concept, and in feature scaling, we would ensure that the range of numbers within your data set is reduced. And why is it? It is to ensure that you have a smooth sail. And what smooth sail are we talking about, guys? Uh, I just mean to say that whenever you're working on a data set, you don't want the range to be too diverse. You don't want it to be too diverse, wherein it is 10 to 20 times different. 10 to 20 times is also okay, but in our data set, we have things which are almost 10,000 times different. The age is 44, while the salary is 44,000. Right, guys? So things like these, they might bring a lot of disturbance in your data set, or they might bring a lot of disturbance in your output. So it is because of things like these that you might want to ensure that you have no missing values or that your data is actually streamlined as per your requirement. So to ensure steps like these are very considerably considered, we would have to go through the process of data pre-processing, right guys? So I hope we have understood different things like how to read a data set in Spider and what are the different ways to do it. What is data pre-processing template? What or how do we clean categorical values? How do we replace NaN values? What is the concept of feature selection? How do we check for inconsistencies if, I mean, notwithstanding, even if it is Spider or even if it is Anaconda, how do we check for inconsistencies using the sklearn homepage? So I think, or I guess, concepts like these have been understood, and you would also try implementing them in your sessions to go, right, guys? So let us now go back to the place where we began all this. Right, so now I hope you have understood what are some important features of Python, where we use them, when we use them, how would using Spider actually make a difference. And I also hope, this is just a hope guys, that you have been able to understand the difference between Spider as an IDE and Anaconda Navigator as an IDE. Both of them are not very different from each other. They try to ensure that you have the same output, but still procedurally or probably by the way we have the look and feel, they may differ a bit. They may is also an understatement, they do differ a bit. And to sum it all up, Spider is a more interactive and a great looking or a great featured kind of a tool which ensures that you are able to work more easily, right? And here, when you're using Python or when you're using Spider, rather, it really wouldn't make a difference even if you're using Spider or Anaconda Navigator. It's just that Spider is more interactive, and rather, if you're a fresher who's working with Python and your target is more into data extraction and data visualization, then I'm sure you would enjoy using Spider because it's a visual treat. Right, guys. Thanks a lot. Thank you, each and every viewer out there. Thanks for your patience. And if in case you liked the video and you felt that this video was informative, then please do not forget to hit the like button. And also do not forget to hit the subscribe button, because when you do it, you would be having access to a plethora of videos to learn from and to watch from. Right, guys? And please do try these variants of hands-on. And if you have any queries, then I'm just a message away. In the upcoming session, we would again see the latest version of how to implement them as well. This version has been checked because there is an update in Spider, and this version is 3.5 or 3.4, and we are currently working on 3.7. So guys, what we have seen just now is an update, and updates like these keep happening, and I hope you have learned how to update. And in the sessions to come, there is a lot more yet to be covered, so do stay tuned, do not go away anywhere. This is me, Varun, your trainer, your mentor, signing off, wishing you and all the best for the sessions to come. Have a great day, and thank you for your patience.